Welcome to the Finance Geeks, a podcast about real financial planning. If you're into numbers, strategies, and building a great planning business, this is your ultimate geeky hangout.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Finance Geeks podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Warren Shute. I'm here joined by
Paul Cleworth.
And today we're going to talk to you about Rachel Reeves' up-and-coming budget on November 26th, what to expect and how to plan. But before I dive into that, Paul, what have you been up to?
I had a whiskey evening with my friend and client of mine, Alan Catchpole. Absolutely brilliant. Came over, tried a number of different whiskies at my house. He's a connoisseur, so he knows a lot about it. And we had a nice evening. No TV was on in the background, but just chatted. We've been prepping for a film day, which is tomorrow, where we've got 6 client couples, and some of them are individuals, but coming into our new building, the stables, tomorrow to do a bit of filming and talk to us about their lives and what they do for a routine and what gives them joy and motivation and that sort of thing. So I've been getting that room sorted. So I've been very excited because I've been getting the Richard, my hi-fi man, which is what it says in my phone. He's been sorting out the lighting and the hi-fi and the TV. And
nice. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. Sounds like you're going to have a bit of fun, doing a few videos and stuff.
For the website, yeah. So for client benefit, and it's we thought we'd try it. So I'm excited about that. What about yourself? What have you been up to?
So not a lot has happened, but my life at the moment seems to be consumed with a house move. My wife has given me drawers to empty, rooms to empty, tip runs to do.
Is it definitely going ahead then?
Yeah. We've got exchange date, beginning of November, complete before the 26th, so 21st of November completion date. So, and that's all going ahead.
I'll put your home address in the show notes so everyone can send you a welcome to your new home card. And then they'll all our listeners are invited to your housewarming party. Yeah? Is that in December?
Of course they are. I'll make sure you're on top of the list, definitely. So, okay, let's move on. So let's talk about the main focal point of today's show, Rachel Reeves' up-and-coming budget on the 26th of November. Let's talk about sort of the background, what's going on and stuff like that. So it's her second budget, but she's getting a lot of airtime, isn't she?
It was pushed right into the future, wasn't it? It's normally in October. It was right at the end of November. It's given a headroom, if you like, for the budget term. It's given this space for speculation and rumour and client worry. And I've had my fair share of conversations with clients, asking about what might be in it, what should I do? And the stock answer's got to be, well, I don't really know what's going to be, and I'm not her.
Do you think she knows it at the moment?
I don't know. She's still writing it at the moment. And what happens is the longer it goes on between when it's announced and when it is there's more things that come out in the press, more concerns, more problems, more worries, and as you say, speculation. And we are going to talk about it today, but I'm a bit annoyed that this affects us in the way that it does, because if you have got any irrational clients, or you've got clients that are worried, or let's say they're in the point of where they're going to make a big purchase, or they're going to do something like they're about to retire, understandably they'd be concerned about how will this affect me.
I think it's common knowledge. I think it's common sense. I think it's reasonable for people to be concerned about it. If you think, I'm moving house, the reason I'm completing on the 21st is because of the budget. It's reasonable for people to say, okay, can I align my affairs so that I am in the best position possible? And I think that's one of the reasons why I think we wanted to do this, so people can just say, hey, look, if there are things in the budget that might really affect me, then is there some reason for me to take some kind of planning action right now? But if it's not going to really affect me imminently, then hey, why make any changes, kind of thing. I think she's got a couple of levers, hasn't she? She can increase taxes or reduce spending. It's a bit like financial planning when you're working with your clients. There's only 3 things we can do. I always say to my clients, I'm not a magician. I've got 3 levers I can work with. I can increase cash inflows, reduce cash outflows, or improve investment returns. That's it. Financial planning boils down to 3. And she's really got those levers. So increasing inflows by increasing taxes, or reducing outflows by cutting public spending.
She's got a third lever, which I'm not sure she's going to dwell on, and she doesn't have as much control over. And that is very much about trying to encourage growth. And there's only so much you can do in the short term to try and stimulate economic growth in the country and improve the condition for workers, for business owners, for the general public to assist with generating more tax revenue. I mean, she's done a really good job of so far of pushing away millionaires to other countries. People have left the country in droves. She's, I think, annoyed business owners by changing the taxation again. National insurance, the raise that we had on employers Class 1A national insurance, she's not very popular. And I
No.
feel bad for her in a way because she has got a very difficult, if not impossible, job to do. We're in this difficult situation as an economy, as a country, where there's almost a lot of money to be spent, and you might say that some of it's been mismanaged, from previous governments or this one. But she's got to do something.
She does, and do you know what? I think I don't feel sorry for her. I'm sorry. I think attacking the agricultural property relief and the business property relief, destroying family business and stuff like that, it's just destroying capitalism. Farmers and things like that. I think it's crazy. I think perhaps looking closer to home and looking at the civil service pension scheme and seeing the cost that cost the taxpayer and maybe reverting them to a group pension scheme might be a very humble thing to start looking at.
Yeah, it's one rule for one, isn't it? And one rule for another, and you find that I don't feel, as you just said, sorry for her or a lot of other MPs that have got really good DB schemes, expenses, decent salaries. Yeah, but she's what I'm saying is she's got when I say, I'm feel sorry for her, that she's got a very difficult job to do. It's almost impossible because you've got to affect or offend somebody. It's difficult to come across and I hope she can square this circle. If she can come across as someone who's both magnanimous, that she's inspirational, that she's honest, if she can be.
Are we talking about the same Chancellor here?
No, I'm saying if she can come across this way, you can't just say as the Chancellor, right? The rich need to pay, the business owners need to pay, and and I know it's trying to all politics to do with trying to get more votes.
Those with the broadest shoulders should carry the biggest burden, or something like that. I think that was her phrase.
That is one of the quotes I've got for later on. Those with the broadest shoulders should pay their fair share of tax. And I sort of agree with that to an extent, but it's tricky, isn't it? Because you're saying, well, who are you referring to? People with £1 million of estate, 5 million, or the big corporates that don't pay their fair share of tax because they push it out through international companies and different countries in the world.
So what about the spending gap? So there's been figures of 30 and 50 billion banded around, isn't there?
Yes, and do you remember? We're talking about different things. So there's the budget deficit. There's that in terms of the difference between receipts in from the revenue, and then there's the annual costs associated with running the country, and the public sector net borrowing requirement is the budget deficit, and it's high at the moment. I don't know if it's something like 125 billion. It's massive, right? So approximately 900 billion to 1,000 billion, £1 trillion comes in, and more than that goes out.
It is. She wants to make sure that she raises money for capital projects, and she meets her expenditure requirements through revenues coming in. That's her rule. That's what she's kind of.
I can't think what it's called now. The budget rules. Then you have the about how much she's prepared to borrow, and how much she's allowed, and then it leaves this headroom figure, which historically has been between sort of 30 and 40 billion, and it's been cut dramatically to about 10 or 9 billion. And it's not enough. And when you consider interest rates can affect gilt yields, of course, and all of a sudden you've got this massive payment to pay on just current borrowing.
That 9 billion figure was given to me as an analogy the other day. It was like, you've got a house of £300,000. You're going to sell it in 10 years' time. You've got to tell me within £2,000 or £3,000 what the figure's going to be. And when you relate it to something, you're like, actually, it's not much. 9-10 billion to us is a huge sum of money, but the figures that they're talking about isn't very much at all. So what taxes should we start with? Where should we start? Do you have a preference on which we're going to trying to go through some of the different taxes?
Yes. When in my brain fog, then I meant fiscal rules. Her fiscal rules, yes, where they're actually quite complicated. I'm going to put a link to what the Labour Party's fiscal rules are, what her fiscal rules are, and she doesn't want to break them. But yeah, let's talk about the different taxes and the potential for change. I mean, the first one that was on my list, it's probably the most commonly talked about, is changes to pensions. Okay. And it seems most advisors like us will probably be managing 50 to 60% of the assets they manage or more will be pension assets. It's quite often the biggest level of assets that you manage, not always, and when clients are close to be able to take their monies, let's say that they're currently 55 and they think, well, I'm old enough now to take my tax-free cash, and they say, should I? Or will she alter the rate, the percentage, or the total amount? Percentage is 25%, total amount is 268, 275.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon they will change?
No, I don't think she's gonna change it for people taking benefits shortly. It might. There's no point in my mind altering something or changing some rules which aren't going to have an impact immediately, or rather, or being so unfair that it's completely not a vote winner at all. So if she said, right, no more tax-free cash from the budget, that is just going to be completely unacceptable. That nobody would accept that. I can't see that happening.
We also got to look at the practical implications of that. Standard Life tomorrow morning or on the 27th, for example, can't give any tax-free cash out. They haven't got the systems in place. They can't practically implement that. So I don't think that's going to be reasonable. Also, the speculation around the removal is encouraging people to take tax-free cash and spend it. So that's exactly what she wants.
Exactly. So that's fascinating that you say that. Yeah,
actually what she wants to do. So it's feeding herself. So I think it's immoral, but
it's this idea that if we now know that from April 2027 pensions are going to come inside the estate for inheritance tax purposes, and because of that, it has definitely made me encourage my clients to spend more of their pensions and actually make use of their basic rate band and perhaps give money away using the gifts out of normal expenditure rules. And we've definitely had some clients take tax-free cash for concern of it changing and just to say, well, I just want to get it and I'll do something with it. I know it's coming into my estate anyway.
We kind of feel we're going to rate these, weren't we? I don't know what we're going to say, like low, medium or high. I guess is quite a simple thing.
But that one's very low.
I agree with that. I think tax-free cash being removed is very low. Yeah. Perhaps maybe reducing the upper limit in the future might be different. So 268 going down to 100,000 or something. But I think
that
for anyone...
That could be a medium. That could be a medium for me, I think.
Anyone retiring imminently in the next 5 years or so, I think you're pretty safe on that. I was going to say the other thing on pensions is maybe salary sacrifice. Maybe they
almost certainly for me that is going to change. It is too big.
So?
Yes, I think that saying to somebody you can buy a Porsche Cayenne or a Porsche whatever
pensions?
They're called.
Yes,
I know, but listen. If this idea of I'm talking about benefiting kinds and cars through the business. I think that'll change as well. But salary sacrifice, it's still an area where people are sacrificing a lot of their income, which otherwise would be taxable at both income tax and NI rates. So the employers benefit and the employees benefit. If that was altered and tweaked, she'd definitely pay less tax relief out, which means she'd get more income tax and national insurance in. So I can see salary sacrifice and NI tweaks being changed.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So that's more medium for you?
Yeah, medium. And similarly, the one that I think is the most likely, which would have an immediate impact, is tax relief going in. And instead of it being at marginal rates, 20, 40, 45, I think a flat rate of 25 to 30 has been rumoured. And I think that that's beneficial for basic rate taxpayers because instead of getting 20, they get 25 or 30. Higher rate and additional rate get less. So you can sort of fiddle about with the rules so that less tax relief is given at source.
And again, that's unlikely to be something immediate, but maybe from the start of the new tax year, although that doesn't give providers...
No, I think that would be immediate. I think that's the sort of thing, if she brought that in, would be... If it brought it in... I mean, it's still probably a medium one for me.
HMRC and pension providers need a bit of time to change their software. You say immediate, on the 31st, if a contribution goes out and they've got to change the amount of tax relief. I think practically these things are going to take time to forms have to be changed, websites have to be reprogrammed. You do a pension on the next day, Hargreaves Lansdown is still going to give you 20% tax relief on it, for example. So anything else you see on pensions? That pretty much the main.
Well, let me just say lastly, just before we move on, is that I hope she doesn't change any of the rules again on pensions because it's a disincentive for people to save for their retirement. And more, it might give us a job and give us things to talk about with clients, but please, can we just move on?
Yeah,
we've got better things to focus on. Oh, yeah, that'll be it. Which tax do you want to focus on next? Yeah, IHT, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's another big one, isn't it? Pensions people worried about and IHT. You've already mentioned the pensions. What's happening with the pensions?
Yeah, so pensions are going to come into the state from April the 6th, 2027. And with regards to IHT, I mean, we've already got sort of tightening of relief, so business property relief and agricultural relief. I mean, there's been talk about the extension of the 7-year rule for potentially exempt transfers and gifts and extending that so it takes longer to get money out your estate.
stay on pensions and inheritance tax for a second before you move on. My biggest concern with that for us is we leave death benefits for pensions in trust a lot. Of course, now we're going to have to, once we know the rules, because one thing to remember, the rules aren't out yet. We've just been told it's going to come in. Once we know the rules, we think we might have to go out and revisit all these people, because it's our understanding that that will take, if you die and you leave your pension to a trust, it's going to use up your nil rate band. And that means any excess over the nil rate band is going to be taxed. So there's a lot of work for financial planners there, for people who've done the right job in the past. We don't want to go out and change things now, because actually the rules might not be, because it's a trust, it goes in trust, it's tax free, so it's a can of worms.
Yeah, that's going to be annoying for sure. But we know, I don't know if you saw the there was an image on LinkedIn and social media and so forth. It showed the different years on what the tax rates have been for death benefits on pensions. At one point they were 0, then they were 35%, then they were 55%, then they were 0 again, and then it's now going to be at 40%. And what I mean is that the death benefit, the tax on after dying for a pension is changed over the years. It was never really meant to be something that should be outside of your estate, and yet it's been used to build pots of money for future generations. And as I say, I don't think that it's that bad a thing coming into the estate.
Well, I won't swear on a podcast, but I think it's theft. I'm sorry. It's like you build this money up, and anyway, we won't need to go into that.
So we were on IHT then. What else? Other changes have you heard about IHT that could change?
I think the gifts out of normal expenditure, I think that's really not going to affect their voting party. It's going to affect the wealthy individuals. So this is where you can give an unlimited amount of money through your income on a regular basis, as long as it doesn't affect your standard of living. I think that's an easy win. It's not going to affect many people, but it's going to affect those people who've got a bit more money. And there's always been talk about the 7-year gifting window. Make a gift today, last 7 years, it's outside your estate. Whether they'll make changes to that, cut it shorter. They can't really cut the allowances. They're pretty minuscule already.
Well, they could simplify it. I mean,
that'd be welcome.
The thing is, yeah, exactly. The close avoidance routes, increase fairness somehow. I don't know how you should do it. Simplify the. I mean, you get now. It's completely unfair. The nil rate band's been 325,000 for 15 years, 20 years, and you get larger states that are going to pay more and more. And there's no question, it's bringing in. I think it's close to 1% of the total revenue take. It's 0.08 or something, or 0.8, nearly 1% is inheritance tax. It's still a small number in the grand scheme of things, because there are things you can do to mitigate it. The big ones we know, income tax, national insurance, VAT, she said we're not they're not going to change. And yet she sort of did change national insurance a little bit for employers, but that was not for workers.
I think in America, I think the inheritance tax threshold is about $10 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, and what have we got? 325, and if we've got a property, it's 500.
You want to encourage wealthy people to stay in the UK, to come back to the UK, to set up businesses, to employ people, give them a break on IHT, make them pay a bit more in other taxes. So CGT, right? We know that they got some random bands. It's moved from 10 to 18, 10 and 18 to 20. What is it? 18 and 24, basic rate and high rate and additional rate. There's talk about it coming in line with income tax rates, 24 to 45.
I think it's too soon after you made the other change. I think that sort of smacks, you didn't know what you were doing last time, you should have just done it. Well, we know you didn't know what you were doing last time, but it's kind of like, I think it's a bit too soon to start tinkering around with the tax that she did last time.
What about applying capital gains tax to your sale of your primary residence above a certain threshold? That's been talked about, a mansion band.
That kind of links into the property side of things. So, I don't think capital gains tax are going to cut allowances or anything, but over a lot of rumours is over £500,000 on the sale of your home, there'll be capital gains tax on it. Now, I'm assuming this will be for properties that complete post-budget. It won't be retrospective, because it's a bit unfair. Someone's planning a sale and they're going to complete in 2 months' time, and now they've got to realise that, oh my God, I've got capital gains on this. There'll be a baseline in the sand, surely.
And then you think, is it a valuation from that point? Or is it a valuation? What's the gain? Is it from inception, which it would normally be? Yeah. But then again, it's completely unfair. And then what you'll find is that if they do this, no one will move.
And are we allowing costs? So we allow improvement costs like you would in a normal investment, costs of purchase, etc. So, if we've got all these costs running the house, are we able to do those? And if we make a loss, can we offset it against gains we make elsewhere? I don't know. It's going to be
more complication.
Yeah, really, really, really complication.
So there's talk of stamp duty reform.
Yeah.
We've already had an increase from 3 to 5% in October last year, or was it April this year, with regards to the increase in second
properties.
homes. Stamp
Okay.
duty is already a very annoying tax, in all
Oh,
honesty, and trying to alter it to pay even more stamp duty on the purchase of a house seems to. What it'll do is it'll, like CGT on the sale of, it'll just reduce the property market movements and crash the property, not crash it, but it'll freeze it.
Paul, you're talking to someone who's just about to buy a house. Trust me, it is the thorn in my side. It's stamp duty is not. There's a couple of things they've talked about. One is an annual stamp duty.
Yeah.
So for house over 500,000, typically what they're saying is annual stamp duty. Another one is that the seller pays a stamp duty, not the buyer.
Yeah,
So
that could come in.
yeah,
I can see changes being made to stamp duty. I can, because it could generate extra revenue, and if you do it above certain levels, the voting public that don't all have £1 million houses are not too concerned for those that do, and so when it's like the rich will pay, and she said the broadest shoulders in her own quote, that could
but
be the
like
case.
you said, it will just I'm really pushing to complete before the budget, but if we don't and these taxes come in, I'll hold back and I'll reassess things.
Yeah, of
And
course you
that's
will.
then going to affect everyone down the line of our chain.
It'll
which
mean
is
that
crazy.
actually, if you don't purchase it, less stamp duty will be paid, because if you don't and they don't sell it, so the tax take is less. And there's evidence to show that capital gains tax receipts have reduced since October 24, when she introduced those new changes. And so, it's all well and good upping tax rates, but if you actually get less tax because of it, that is not great.
Okay, so stamp duty and how property's done. Anything else on that?
Yeah, no, I think the other thing you talked about is changes to bans on council tax, which obviously is to do with property, and I can see how some people might say that's fairer. So the property council tax rates haven't been changed and been frozen for such a long period of time. It's massively out of date system, and so they could increase the bans, and so someone with a very expensive property pays a much bigger annual cost. Property taxes in the States are considerably higher, as I'm sure you know, in places like in America, in California. It's much, much higher on £5 million houses. They pay a massive annual property tax. It's not
They
just
pay capital
$4,000
gains
a
too
year.
when you sell it.
Oh, do they in the
Yeah,
States?
they pay capital gains. Well, they do in California at least, say capital gains. But you can also offset the interest on your mortgage against your income. So I guess you got to look at the whole thing. VAT on taxi fares.
I do.
Yeah, so no VAT on taxis at the moment. When you pay for a taxi fare, there's no VAT. They don't pay. I think that's fair. I think every company pays VAT.
Well, there's certain things like VAT on private healthcare. It's been ruled out for now, but there's other products that you don't pay VAT on. It's a super complicated type of tax.
Really complicated.
Maybe it's extending or changing. We've already had the change to private school fees. That's very difficult to get through politically. I mean, VAT is one of the big taxes, and I mean, I suppose she could break the mandate and just say, right, it's now 22% instead. If you want to raise tax quickly, you'd have to change income tax, national insurance, or VAT. The fourth big one is corp tax. Now, we've already had a change from 19 to 25% in corp tax, which sort of went under the radar. Cutting down on reliefs or fiddling about with bans, upping rates. You've got to do whatever you do. You've got to do something to generate tax now, not in 5 years' time.
Gambling, I think that's adding extra taxes.
Sin taxes, consumption and sin taxes. So, I can see how almost in every budget there's an increase to alcohol and cigarettes and gambling. I don't know whether they'll fiddle about with fuel duty again. I mean, it comes out in the fine print, doesn't it? Some things are included, and then the small print, there's things that affect everybody that can generate revenue.
Yeah, they wanted to try and make the cost of living easier. So whether it goes on energy prices, gets reduced on energy prices and stuff. If they reduce it somewhere like that to make the cost of living easier, they're going to have to put it on somewhere else to just balance the two things off.
There was talk of a salt and sugar levy. You have a reformulation of tax on certain types of foods to raise health-related revenues. I mean, who knows? That sauce on there's from the Sun, so that's probably rubbish on there.
Hey,
are you going to do extra cost of sweets? I'm already gutted that things like a marathon, now known as a Snickers, is smaller than it was when I was a kid. But I consider you've got shrinkflation, which drives me around the bend. You want a proper Mars bar or a proper
chocolate
bar.
I remember the marathon days. They were very good.
National insurance, we talked about NI insofar as it's changing for employers already in Class 1As, but there was rumour that NI would be on rental income or partnership profits and maintaining, freeze the NI thresholds, which effectively is the same as freezing income tax thresholds. You get fiscal drag, you get more people brought in to those rates and having to pay it, which raises more revenue. Do you see any changes to rental income?
No, I don't, because hey, look, unless she is completely, I don't want to be unkind, unless she's not really aware of society. If she puts VAT on rental income, landlords are going to put the rent up. It's just like, they're not. There's so much demand for rental properties at the moment, is outstrips supply. So it's like, well, who's in charge there? It's the landlords. They're already making it difficult with like no fault evictions stuff. I think that might come in, but that's like on another issue. No, I don't think they will. I hope she doesn't, because it's just going to make renting more expensive for those people who can't afford to buy, and that's going to be the bulk of her voters.
There has been some good news over the last year that people have not seen, perhaps, that the national debt now is only about 96 or 97% of GDP. It used to be close to 100. That interest rates have come down, and therefore the gilt yield has come down ever so slightly, so we get an uptick in gilt prices. But what it's meant is the borrowing costs are slightly less, and I don't think people sort of know it or see it that often. The consumers, the public, don't see how much interest is paid on government bonds every year. It's something like 8 to 10% of all the revenue raised from the tax from the HMRC goes on interest. Yeah. Goes to pay the yield on the bonds themselves. So if that interest cost is less because interest rates are coming down and the gilt yield's falling a little bit, that's a good thing.
Hey, I'm normally the optimistic one. That's good. That's good.
What about my favourite one? Right, changes to ISAs and savings. Yeah, do you remember she talks about reducing the cash ISA limit? That seems
it's the minutiae, isn't it? I think, if you relate it to a diet, doing things like that it's the person, just think about, you're going to have a diet Pepsi and stuff, but then just going to have fish and chips. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just, So do you think we've covered the main body of all the taxes there? Was there any other things you wanted to make sure we included?
No, I think, honestly, that's a lot of them. The ones that I think that will come in that have not, two that we've not really dwelled on there, but I think that will cut loopholes and perhaps raise some taxes, is fiddling about with the benefit in kind rules in terms of things like company cars through effectively salary exchange. And I got clients that are in this position. They're employed, good salaries. They get offered an amazing car that's cost £100,000 through a salary sacrifice, benefit in kind, routine, regiment, routine. What do you call it? Cut that bit out. But the ability to save an enormous amount of income tax by buying an asset through salary exchange, I think that'll change. I also think that she's going to fiddle about with reliefs for businesses, in terms of capital allowances, restriction on certain investments. And although it might not change corporation tax, there's probably going to be lots more freezing of thresholds, because generally freezing of thresholds, which is always the case, and fiscal drag does generate some extra revenue pretty quickly. The most popular, the one that it says on here that I've noticed, freezing of income tax and NI thresholds can actually raise up to 10 billion a year by the end of the decade. So the likelihood of just no giveaways in this budget seems, it's not going to be a positive budget. It's just going to be tax rises. But let's talk about tax spending cuts. Do you think there'll be any?
Do I think there'll be any spending cuts? Yes, they said about some public services might get hit, but I'm not sure what they're going to get hit with. I can't really think of many things that are going to be cut, if I'm honest.
It's never popular, but they talked about, didn't they, welfare spending cuts. They talked about previously changes to universal credit and the winter fuel payment, and then, Labour backbenchers turned it, big backlash, and it ended up reducing the headroom considerably because of it. It's very unpopular fiddling about with welfare at a time like this and reduce. But as you said, I'd love it if they altered some of the big costs, like changing the government pension scheme. That would be tremendous.
How do we feel about calling it a summary or a wrap there?
Yeah, well, you do the normal wrap up, if you would, please, about what we think might happen. And
so basically, we haven't got a clue. But what
Isn't
we
that
try and do
definitely
with
the
our
case?
clients is just take a pragmatic approach and say, hey, look, if you don't need your tax-free cash, then why would you take it? The probability of them messing around with the tax-free cash is very, very modest. If you can afford to fund pension contributions through salary sacrifice now, then you should. Why would you wait anyway? You just do it at first. And if you're going to fund ISAs and such like, and you've got the funds available, then do it now. If you don't have the funds available, there's no worry to worry about. There's no need to worry about doing that. And with regards to pensions in the estate and changing the inheritance tax, what I try and say to clients is, if you're going to do something, if that's your plan, then actually do it now. If you're able to do something to help mitigate the risk, like purchasing property before the budget, just in case stamp duty goes against you, then try and do it.
If you're in the process, I mean, those big things, we're already end of October. It's not very long to buy or sell a property.
No,
so there's
not.
But as you say, the only real things you can do, I think, as you say, is top up ISAs, top up pensions, take advantage of those allowances, wait to see what the rules are before you make any big decisions. I'd have to say that would be the overriding conclusion.
So, Paul, do you have any Q&A for me this week?
So the most overly used quote about tax is the Benjamin Franklin quote, who said, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. We've probably referred to it in a previous podcast, but I have got
I like that one.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You mentioned the Rachel Reeves quote about those with the broadest shoulders should pay their fair share of tax. She also said, challenges are being thrown our way. I won't duck those challenges. So we'll see how she comes out, whether she comes out a winner or a loser at the end of the budget, or whether she actually does something rather than tweaks. We need something sustainable, something achievable, something that's going to actually work. And I think you have to, as you say, balance the spending, the raising of taxes with reducing spending.
Yeah.
So,
I completely agree.
I've got one from Taylor Wessing. It's an analysis from Taylor Wessing. It says the simplest and most cost-effective way of increasing tax revenues would be to raise income tax rates. And she said she's not going to do it. So, but it's the fairest type of tax. You earn money, you pay tax. It's taken at source. They get it immediately. That and national insurance. The reason why they're the biggest taxes is that they're the fairest. Yeah. Lots of others that we work with, people can mitigate them in some way, or avoid them.
Okay, should we call it a wrap?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the Finance Geeks. That's it for today's session. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. That's a bye from me.
All right then, guys. Take care now. Have a good day. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Finance Geeks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Drop your comments and questions on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on social media. Join us next time for more insights to boost your financial planning game.